Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today's Thursday, April the 10th. This is episode number 290. I'm your host, Rod Bloom, and I'm going to bring my brother Jeff in right off the bat. We'll get things started.
Hey, Rod.
How are things going?
Going good. 290, did you say?
290. I had to look that up.
10 away. We need to start planning for the 300 episode, huh?
Well, if we want to do anything special, we could just kind of roll right through it and act like it's no big deal,
No big deal. That's right.
Yeah. So, well, let's just bring our guest in. What do you say? We got a lot to talk about tonight.
Launch right into it.
Yeah, we'll just launch right into it. We're going to bring in Jared Mueller. You can follow him at Jared Mueller. Jared is, you can find him at Dogs by Nature, at SB Nation, and he's a member of the Pro Football Writers Association. Is that right, Jared? PFA Writers at
that's
FWA Writers. I said that wrong 3 times.
It's all good. They let anybody in nowadays if they're going to let me in. So they figured after like 14 years they finally would let me in. So by the way, when you said 290, I thought you guys were talking bowling. I was like, wow, I was really impressed. Like, man, 290? Come on.
Yeah.
I quit bowling because I wanted higher scores. I switched to golf.
Fair enough. Perfect timing with the Masters going on down there right now.
That's right.
Yeah. No kidding.
If you ever get down to Cincinnati, there's a...
Well, guys, before we...
sorry. I was going to say, there's just a golf course.
You're fine. Go
there's
ahead,
a golf course down in Cincinnati area called Legends Run. If you ever want the worst round of your life on the greatest golf course you'll probably ever play, it is, they remake golf holes, 9 from the American golf courses and 9 from like European golf courses. It's ridiculously hard. You're never standing on flat surfaces except for the tee boxes, but it's beautiful. It's amazing, and you get to kind of feel like you're playing some of the courses. I can promise you I fell down swinging multiple times in the fairway because you're not standing on flat surfaces. And I'm a decent, I shoot 40, 42 most nights. So if you ever really want to not have a great day on the golf course, but it's beautiful, Legends Run down in Cincinnati area.
Nice. Thanks for that reference.
Yeah. Cool. So before we launch into the Browns talk here and draft and football and all that fun stuff, we do a little segment. And man, I'm falling asleep at the switch already here.
Still learning all the technical stuff. Video
Jared,
podcast, huh?
Jared, this is our 3rd video podcast, so I'm still.
You're trying to scare people away, eh? I like it.
Yeah, they have to look at us now, so it's kind of different, but. Well, I can't find it. So anyways, we're going to do our Blitz Beverages segment. Okay. And Jared, I don't know if you're drinking anything tonight.
I am simply at water at this point in time in the evening. I'm a simple man.
That's awesome. That's fine. We each partake in water quite a bit on the podcast, but we like to give everybody a chance just in case, because we do have people who bring something else more, I don't want to say, is it right to say more adult?
Yeah, they're called adult beverages, I think. Yeah.
So anyway, Jeff, I understand you're drinking something tonight. So
So my son Matt was nice enough to pick me up some of this Heineken alcohol free. I'll show you the bottle. I don't think I've had a Heineken. Well, it's been a long time. I don't know how many decades it's been, but he found this, thought of me, so I appreciate that.
Nice.
See how stinky it is.
That's what I remember about Heineken.
Yep, still a stinky beer.
Still stinky. Heineken and Beck's are both stinky, but I just like the flavor of Beck's better.
Yeah,
Beck's tastes a little bit better. Anyways, guys, I'm drinking this is a collaboration between Sonder Brewing and Dorothy Lane Market, and it is called a Rhueberry. So it is a roast and chocolate German They call it a Schwartz beer. So I've had a Schwartz beer before. I don't know what the definition of a Schwartz beer is, but it tastes good. It's kind of a dark flavor, a little bit. So it's almost a little chocolatey, but you can taste the raspberry.
That would go their seasonal, Dorothy Lane's seasonal killer brownie is a strawberry shortcake that has like a caramel in the middle. And it was legit really good. I didn't know if the caramel would work, but somehow the strawberry and the sugar cookie and the caramel was just legit. So you could mix those two, and I think you got that great, perfect, sweet, fruity thing going.
I think that would be great. I have this talk with people all the time about how beer and chocolate go together, like a piece of chocolate cake and a good beer. People are like, oh, those don't go together. I'm like, if you haven't tried it, don't knock it.
I will tell you that college Jared found out that beer and cereal, and specifically Captain Crunch berries, always went really, really well together, especially in any kind of competition, including Flip Cup and anything else. The literal party did not start until someone brought me a family size thing of Captain Crunch berries. So wow. I mean, sweet and beer, they can work.
Wow.
I feel like we just elevated the Blitz beverages segment, Rod.
We did. This is probably one of our best of all time. Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand. Yeah.
Going
back to college days. Yes, definitely.
Wright State was it's a fun time for me.
Right.
Yeah. So Jared, we do a little segment on the show for first time guests where we have them tell us about their kind of the Browns fandom and the Browns journey. So I don't want you to wear your voice out too much on this. So I want you to save some of it, but anything you'd like to share just about, how you became a Browns fan and kind of that journey.
Yeah. So I'm the youngest of two. My older brother I was his birthday present on his 5th birthday. So I was born 3 days before his birthday. And I actually was a Indians fan first. So born in Sandusky, Ohio, moved down to Dayton for school and then just stayed after meeting my amazing wife. We've been together now almost 20 years. So rolling along there. But
nice.
My older brother taught me how to read using baseball cards. That included some Lincoln logs that were used as motivation to make sure that I was getting things right. So at a very young age, I was taught by my brother to love sports. My dad was my baseball coach. My brother was all Ohio baseball. Ended up getting his PGA Tour card later in life. My mom worked for the Indians during the 94 to 99 kind of time frame. Sports was kind of bred into me. But to be honest, started as an Indians fan. It was the tickets we could afford to go to. We couldn't afford Cavs and Browns tickets a lot. So really kind of was there for really going into high school. And then high school, as I kind of, I don't know if I matured, but as I got a little older, football and basketball really kind of picked up. And so really high school and, losing the team when I was early in high school and then getting the team back early in college. 1999, I was there for the final game in the Dog Pound. I believe it was the Colts. And that was the first football game I've ever been to. That wasn't like a high school game. And, so I'm a freshman in college, sophomore in college, and it was a game changer. It was a game changer at that point in time. And it hasn't looked back since. So that's really, started as the Indians. And then as you get older, 165 games is really hard to, or whatever it is, 182, whatever the number is. It's a whole lot of games to pay attention to. Football became a little easier and more passion, in my adult life.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very cool. Very cool. So let's move on to usually move into Browns news. I'm scrolling the news and it's like all I'm seeing are mock drafts, and possible talk of trades. And I'm like, guys, is there really any news out there? I don't know if there's really any news we want to talk about. I don't really want to talk about number 4. I don't really want to talk about the stadium. So,
what's that first one?
Yeah, we're not. We quit talking about that one a while back.
I just want to put one thing out there with regard to that. He made another statement about people are underestimating him, and he's going to be all this that. Just shut the hell up.
Yeah.
Just you had 3 years to let your play on the field do the talking.
Yeah.
Why would anybody think that the next go around is going to be any different?
Right.
That's a great question. I think I'll just be honest. One of the really interesting things about Watson, he is a really hard worker. Like every one of his teammates, some of them really do not like him because of the off the field stuff. Some of them don't like him because he just sucks and he sucked the life out of the team. And some of them don't like him because they like Baker. Some of them don't like him because of the contract. There's a lot of reasons not to like him, but almost universally, the guy works really hard. And so it's actually really interesting to see because we're used to players coming to Cleveland, getting that paycheck, and then, Dwayne Bowing it or whoever else, Andre Rison back in our day, right? Like we're used to them just giving up. And so it's interesting, like he is a really hard worker. He should shut his mouth. He should never be on camera again. He should never be seen. The Browns can't keep him from the facility. That's not allowed based on the collective bargaining agreement. But it's so interesting to me. Like, so for those who don't know, I have been a mental health professional for 24 years now. That's what I do as well. And it's really interesting from like analyzing. You're like, man, this guy works really freaking hard and really does care about being good and has athletic gifts and has been flipping horrible, right? Like in Cleveland, it just doesn't make sense, right? Like he tries really hard, he works really hard, and he sucks. And he's obviously there's not a good human being story there, right? Like, so that makes it even harder.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We're just over it.
Yeah. I think the one, I don't know if news, but I think as we track the 30-day visits or 30-day, the 30 visits, they're not top 30 visits. I won't call them top 30 visits. The 30 visits, I think those are just always interesting because you're trying to evaluate like why, like what's the reason behind bringing in these people, but not these people? And who do we not know they brought in, right? Especially some of the local visits, like people are mad they haven't brought in reportedly Will Howard yet, but he's a local visit. So have we just not heard that they've brought him in, right? Where we have heard they brought in Quinshon Judkins, so I think the 30 visits are just interesting to look at. Isaiah Bond was brought in, and today was something legal. I don't want to use the wrong term. Something legal down in Dallas. He was brought in. I believe he was booked and then released. He's someone that the Browns have been linked to since before the combine. And so now it's interesting. He said he was going to run the really fast. He didn't. He's put out a statement about it. But for the Browns to bring in somebody who most people knew he had some stuff going on behind the scenes, maybe didn't know all the details. I think Bond is going to be an interesting name that some fans might be pushing for on day 3 and could go undrafted given the timing of kind of this situation.
Yeah. It's interesting, like you said, Jared, trying to decipher what's real and what's smoke at this point, which guys, and that a handful of those guys will end up on the team somehow,
one way or another,
either drafted or UDFA or something, right? And then I think the rest of it is it's okay. Well, we're trying to get somebody to come up and get them from us, right?
And
feels like
I think if they had a chance, you might as well bring in every quarterback you can when they're going to accept it, right? I don't think the Chiefs, if they offered Cam Ward a visit, he's going to go. But when you can, why would you not have them in? You're going to probably face them at least a couple times in their career. Some of them you might be facing twice a year. So I think that's the other thing with the quarterback. This is a great opportunity to really kind of get under the hood of probably 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks that'll start games against you at some point in time in the career. So I think that's the other piece of some of this is, is it interest in Dart and Shuck, or are they just getting under the hood? Those kind of things.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list, and I don't know if this is an all-inclusive list. Like you said, Jared, I guess there's different categorizations of this list, but maybe I missed it. But I'm I don't know if I want to say I'm surprised or if it's part of that misdirection, but I don't see any tackles on this list. And you would think that would be one direction they're definitely looking. Do they not want teams to know who they like?
It's possible. We do have one. We have Will Campbell has visited, but he's not going to be available unless they trade down, right? So that's the only one that we have a report of a visit.
Okay.
I'm not high on this tackle class. I think that's a really tough place to be this year. I think there are some guys, but you're either looking at, even Will Campbell, like I like him, but he's someone, he's a Joe Thomas type that you've got to be perfect in your technique or darn close to perfect in your technique when you do have some of the physical limitations that he has. He can get beat bending the edge. He can get beat on the inside because of some of those things. And so, he's got to be kind of perfect. And, in the end, do you bet on exceptions to the rule, right? Do you bet on Bryce Young? He'd be the exception to the rule with his height, right? For example, in a lot of ways, Joe Thomas was the exception to the rule with his arm length and some of the athleticism stuff. So, but I mean, you really look at this class, Kelvin Banks is, according to the consensus big board, is the third tackle. And I know most people have him as a guard and think he's a 3rd round pick. Josh Simmons coming off a knee is maybe the 4th guy. Josh Connerly is the 5th guy, and he's a mid-2nd round, high 2nd round pick. So it's just not a great class for offensive tackles. But then we all shudder. Does that mean DeJuan Jones and Jack Conklin?
Yeah.
Is that what we're just going to bet everything on next year and hope the swing guy they signed from Washington, which Cornelius Lucas, I believe, we're just going to bet on him being the guy that's going to step in? Sounds a little scary, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, I think we're set up to draft a decent, a fairly high tackle in this draft. It might be the 2nd pick, it might be the 3rd pick, but we probably won't go any lower than that. Yeah. We need to have somebody ready for 26, I think.
Agreed.
It sure feels that way. I could feel the entire fan base shudder at people starting to suggest that the Browns should bring back Jed Wills. That started coming out today. I saw a couple people talking about that, and I'm like, oh, you're gonna have people just jumping out of windows if that happens.
Right.
I think Jed is such an interesting. We're gonna just use. We have proof in the pudding, right? Like, he's a really athletic player. He was a 1st round pick. 1st round picks always get opportunities, and he's athletic, and he's an offensive tackle.
Yeah.
Is that crickets I hear? Because we've heard, we haven't heard one rumor, one meeting, enough. Like, James Hudson got signed in like day 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And we're about to hit the draft, and Jed Wills is.
Nobody wants him.
I think it would be interesting if there wasn't the Deshaun Watson trade. Like, Jed Wills, like they've made some mistakes. John Johnson didn't pan out. Juan Thornhill didn't pan out. But is Jed Wills the biggest mistake they made? It was their first big decision, but was he the biggest mistake besides Watson?
You could argue that.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of forcing a square peg into a round hole.
I agree.
That's what happens when you get desperate on draft day, right? Instead of just looking at the best player.
Yeah. It's also interesting. I was told back then, wow, it sounds like it was so long ago, 2020, that they had concerns about Wirfs transitioning to left tackle. Many teams did, but didn't have concerns about Jed Wills. It was very interesting. Obviously, Wirfs has proved to be amazing, right? Like, sucks. But I will say, the one tackle, I am not going to pronounce his name right. I'm not very good at that, but Ariante Ersari, thank you. I've heard that they like him. There's a lot of positives from his perspective. Whether he's available and it fits, maybe at 33, but I think even at 33, at this point, we pretty much assume, do they skip quarterback altogether, right? Or are they just looking at one of those 5th round guys at that point? If they're going to go offensive tackle, where do you just know you don't get a chance at a Jalen Miller or a Jackson Dart? The blunt reality is they have too many needs.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't fix all of them. Right. So the question I think for that is of all these quarterbacks, how many of them do we think go high? Right. How many of them can we wait on? And how desperate are we to try to find a guy who can play this year versus a guy that we might take 2 or 3 years to develop? For me, I don't think there's much drop off from Cam Ward to whoever number 10 or 11 is in this draft in terms of what they can give you this year. So why not roll the dice on a guy or a couple of guys later in the draft, right? I've got a whole bunch of stuff I want to get into later about taking guys that aren't the top quarterback in the draft.
Yeah.
And what's the real drop off there? But for me, that's kind of what's going to determine this draft is, how far do teams reach for some of these quarterbacks? I was just watching some stuff on Tyler Shuck, and he could go in the top 20 or he could drop into the 3rd round, right?
Yeah. I know 5 teams who say Jackson Dart should not be selected before day 3.
Well, problem is that there's 27
and he may go
other teams that are willing
top
to
10
take
or 15. Yeah.
Right. And the Browns might be one of those teams that really, I don't see it, but
right.
I think it's really interesting. And one of the things, I'll just be honest, how do I say this in Brownsy language? The Browns do not want to be good. They have zero interest in being good. They only care about the chance to be great. That's it. So when you think about the moves that they'll make, it does make sense that they aren't going to draft Shedeur Sanders at 2, because I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
He just may not be great. And it's why they, besides some of the immaturity that Baker Mayfield has said he's had, right? Like, he made it very obvious he was immature here and had his issues. One of the reasons they moved on from him was that they did not see an upside beyond even barely making an AFC championship game with him. Now, anything could happen, right? You can get lucky or whatever. And so I think that's the other thing to think about when you look at these quarterbacks and maybe some of the other positions. Now, you can't focus on great for freaking everything, right? But, when you think of Jackson Dart or Tyler Shuck, what's the upside, right? I think Shuck has the lower of the upside based on age, based on the fact that he wasn't good until his 14th season in college, whatever it was. People are talking about the Seattle Seahawks selecting him, and he is a year and a half younger than Sam Darnold, who is on his 5th team.
Yeah.
Right? That doesn't make any sense.
No.
Yeah.
No
and he
sense.
wasn't good. He was not good until last season. He didn't throw more than, I think it was 170 passes in any season until last year at 26 years old. So I don't think there's the upside. Jackson Dart, there's some concerns about system and read of the field and all that. And that's why, you guys have seen, I come back to Jalen Milroe every single time. It's not because I'm like, oh my gosh, Jalen Milroe is going to be an amazing quarterback. But he's the only one outside of Cam Ward. He's literally the only one on the list that could be great. The rest could be good, but it's Ward and it's Milroe. There is not a single other player on this list that has the ceiling to quote unquote be great. And you're competing Mahomes, Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, there's Jalen Hurts, whoever else you want to name. You're competing with great quarterbacks. You're not beating them with good quarterbacks. You're just not. And so I think that's going to be really a fun game at this point in time, because Jalen Milroe absolutely has high bust potential, right, as a quarterback.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the boom bust guy. Sure.
He could be a really good running back, though.
We said about Lamar a long time ago.
Yeah. Literally, Lamar Jackson would have been a really good slot receiver if he didn't turn into a great quarterback.
Right.
And the Browns almost screwed that up because they would have drafted him at 33.
Yeah.
Literally, I have By the way, by saying I have a really good source, I have two really good sources that no longer with the team that answered directly to John Dorsey that season. They're both not with the team anymore, but they both had assistant in the name of their title. And they would have drafted Baker Mayfield 1 and Lamar Jackson 33. And I knew that at the combine. So Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens, or the Baltimore Ravens saved Lamar Jackson and saved the NFL from not getting to see Lamar Jackson be freaking amazing.
Nice. Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, Rod, since we're on quarterbacks, maybe we should just knock this out right now. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
Sorry.
I had a little thing here. No, this ties in great. I had a thing here. I was just going to do a little bit of over under. Okay. Just see what you guys think on this. The first overall pick in the draft over the last 20 years. So 20 selections, the number one pick in the draft. How many times was a quarterback selected in the last 20 years with the first overall pick? And I'm going to give you an over-under of 12.
Well, Jared probably remembers all of them.
No, I'm actually, it's frustrating me because I'm starting at the beginning and I can't get there. I think it's under.
Okay.
I think it's under. Yeah.
Rod, what do you think?
I mean, well, the tendency would be to go over because you think that quarterback's taken most of the time. But I mean, I'm sitting here thinking of the guys who were taken number one who weren't quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's the way I went too. I was like, I can't remember all those.
So here's the answer. In the last 20 years, the number one pick in the draft has been a quarterback 14 times.
Holy cow. I was wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Four defensive ends and 2 tackles in that time period. Okay. And that just in the last 20 years, has it become that high a percentage? If you went further back in the draft, you'd find a lot of other positions sprinkled in, but in the last 20 years, it's been a very high percentage of the time that a quarterback has been taken number one. And I just think it underscores how desperate teams are for franchise quarterbacks. Of those 14 guys, 8 of them are still starters. 9 of them are still active. I'm going to call Jameis Winston active, but not a starter. I don't think he's going to beat out Russell Wilson. And then in the last 10 years, there have been 8 quarterbacks selected number one. Okay.
So Jaguars defensive end,
Myles Garrett. Yeah.
Miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So let me just give you another over under here. And this, you'll see where I'm going with this in a second. In the same time period, going back 20 years, how many times was a quarterback selected with the second overall pick after the first overall pick was a quarterback? So in other words, the first 2 picks were quarterbacks. How many times in the last 20 years?
I know of 3.
I'll give you an over under of 4.
Ooh.
Oh, only 4.
So
I'll still go over on that, but I'll bet it's just barely over.
Yeah,
I don't think it's happened that often.
Because I can name 3 really quickly. It's Goff and Wentz, the Mariota year, right? I think, and last year. So yeah, I think it's probably over. Yeah, it's got to be over.
Yeah, it's over. It's 6. So 6 times in 20 years was the second pick a quarterback. So the first 2 picks were quarterbacks. So you had Jaden Daniels last year, CJ Stroud year before last. Then you had Zach Wilson going after Trevor Lawrence, Carson Wentz going after Jared Goff, Marcus Mariota going after Jameis Winston, and RG3 going after Andrew Luck.
Yep.
So I'm going to say of those 6 guys, 2 of them turned out pretty well. And those just happened to be the 2 from the last 2 years, right? So everybody thinks well, you know how human beings are, right? We have a short memory, right? So we remember that of the last two drafts, the top two quarterbacks were good choices, or fairly good choices, right? And we think automatically this year, why not take a quarterback number two also, right? History says it doesn't work that way. The last time there was a situation where, and this is probably being generous, okay, the number two guy was a quarterback and he had some success, was in 1999. I had to go all the way back to the Tim Couch draft when Donovan McNabb went second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And nobody thought the Syracuse guy was going to be good.
Right.
No,
and of course,
yeah.
We all remember that Achilles Smith went as the third pick, right?
Pick,
so,
yep. Right.
And was it Luke McCown was 8 to the Bears, I think, off the top of my head?
Something like that. Yeah. So the prior year, Peyton Manning was the top pick in the draft, and Ryan Leaf was the second pick. I guess my point here is that taking Shedeur Sanders at number 2, the history says is not a wise choice of a draft pick. And I'm going to highlight that a little bit further by saying in 2007, of course, everybody knows about the Jamarcus Russell draft, right? The two guys taken after him were
Tannehill?
Calvin Johnson, Hall of Fame.
Right after him. Yeah.
Joe Thomas, Hall of Fame, right? How would you, as Oakland, like to have a redo on that, right?
So you're saying it's not always the quarterback you should take, yeah. We get on that one, especially. But depends on the class, yeah.
Who was the second quarterback taken in that draft, by the way?
What's that?
Who was the second quarterback taken in that draft? Jamarcus Russell with the first pick. The second quarterback was?
Brady Quinn, number 22.
Drum roll, Brady Quinn at number 22 by the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns.
Do not trade into the 22 spot, please.
I will literally say they should never do that. They could try to give them the pick, and they shouldn't do it.
Don't ever take a quarterback at 22.
Yeah, I will say this, and I don't even know if this is a hot take, but it feels like it is at this point in time. I actually think people are overhyping Cam Ward more than anything else. Like, everybody has created this idea that Cam Ward is number one with a bullet and blah, blah, blah. But you think about when this all started, and I always say, in general, it comes back to where it started, right? Right before the combine, in the combine, most of the things we kind of think are going to happen. When we started this process, it was Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. Yeah. All of a sudden, it's Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. Even if you look at I did this on DBN because I was really just intrigued by how are we looking at grades, right? What do the grades tell us? And you look at NFL Network, Lance Zierlein does a really good job with his grades and explaining it. They're not graded. They're graded in the same tier, and they're not graded that far apart. People are just excited because Cam Ward can throw the ball freaking hard. But the reality is he falls back a lot in his throws. He doesn't play within structure. He's not comfortable 3-step drop and getting the ball out. So every quarterback needs to be in a good system. But the reality is I think while we are kind of like Cam Ward and everything else, I think it's actually Cam Ward and everything else. And that doesn't mean he's not going to be good, but it's been wild to see that somehow throughout this draft process, I don't think people's opinion of Shedeur Sanders has changed that much. I think it's actually changed more about Cam Ward just because he throws the ball really hard and because you need a quarterback from a storyline perspective. And the Titans made it pretty clear. They told Mario Cristobal before the Miami's bowl game, yeah, we're probably taking him. That's why Ward sat out the second half, is because they had already told them that they're probably taking him number 1. So, but I think just because of that, everybody's like, well, Ward's awesome and everything else. And I think I think we've made it up a little bit.
Yeah. I think you're right. It suits what people want to hear, and what the league would like is to have a superstar quarterback, right?
And he's going to go number 1, so you can't look stupid, right? Like, well, he must have been really good because he went number 1. No, you just knew he was going to go number 1 3 months ago.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break for these messages. We'll be right back with more of the Browns Blitz. And we're back with Jared Mueller and the Browns Blitz. And guys, I thought we'd, Jared, I saw you plugging this. I thought we'd take a quick look at Doug Farrar's mock draft just for fun.
Yeah, hey, we're lucky. We get Doug to do a full 7-round mock draft for us. So I don't agree with everything, but
yeah. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, I was going to open it on my computer, but I think there's some videos that might be playing with it. So
sure, you're good.
so I'm trying to go a little bit from memory here. I don't know if I can find it on X real quick, but you guys probably remember the picks anyways. So
yeah, I've got it here if you want.
Yeah, so I guess I was kind of with it through the first 3 picks, and it's hard to argue. And I mean, depending on what you think about that second pick, everybody's so opinionated on it. I'm at the point where the Browns are going to take who they're going to take, and I know that I'm going to have to be good with it eventually anyway, so I'm not going to tear myself up over it. Right. So if they go any direction, so be it. That too.
Yeah, I mean, I think Abdul Carter, like everybody caught on that it most likely is Travis Hunter. That kind of picked up steam over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But if Abdul Carter is the pick, what are we doing here, right? Like
we can't argue that.
That's a great player. Like
it's not a problem.
It's not a problem at all. So no, first 3 picks, Abdul Carter, Luther Burden, the third, and Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah.
Again, there's no quarterback there, but if you're looking to build your team, you give Myles Garrett the pairing that he's never had. And again, they have some really good defensive ends to help with that process. Then you give a really talented wide receiver that some people think should be a top 10, 15 pick, and an athletic freak of a running back. I'm not sure. Besides, there's no quarterback. And again, if you think all that matters is quarterback, then you might as well take him number 2 anyways. Besides no quarterback, I'm not sure how you complain about those 3 picks.
No.
Do you guys?
I would be good.
I'm not sure. I assume all Browns fans are Buckeyes fans. That's just the way it works for me. Do you guys have an opinion on Judkins versus TreVeyon Henderson?
I mean, I like them both. Jeff is probably going to be a little bit more analytical. I feel like Judkins is probably going to be a guy who's going to be available all the time. Not as flashy, but man, I just feel like he could really turn into a great NFL back. Yeah. I would love to see him in Cleveland. Whereas Henderson, he's going to be flashier. He's not quite going to fill the exact same role.
Yeah.
So it just really depends what you want. I think. If you take Henderson, then I want another big bruiser guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Give me one of each.
That was going to be my point. Is that if you're looking for a complementary back, I think Quinshon Judkins is somewhere between Nick Chubb in his prime and Jerome Ford on his best day.
Yeah.
Okay. He's a 3-down back. He's a mauler. He's going to get you the tough yards. He's going to knock people over. You need a change of pace guy in my mind, and TreVeyon Henderson is that. Yeah. He's going to be the flashy guy. He's going to be the guy that makes the big play, busts it, and just surprises everybody. The shock and awe guy, So, I'm not sure that the Browns necessarily need either one of those guys. They need somebody like that, though, right? So, if you're hanging your hat on Jerome Ford over the next 5 or 10 seasons or however many, you need a complimentary guy to him, in my mind.
And I think it's interesting, like this draft is really a supply and demand draft at some level, because there are probably 15 starting running backs in this draft, 13, 10, 12, whatever the number is. There's a lot. And so, do they drop a little bit after Omarion Hampton and Ashton Genty? Do they drop a little bit just because there's a lot of them? I think that's what's going to make it kind of fun and interesting, with the Browns having 2 third-round picks. Doug noted here, 587 of basically over half of Junkin's yards came after contact, and he forced 43 missed tackles on 193 carries. Those are some numbers I can get with, right? Like, especially when you're able to run what he ran at the combine and some of those kind of things. So yeah, those 3 picks work really well, and assume a Kirk Cousins trade, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's don't go there.
Yeah, from then on, his draft, not so sure. You know,
another wide receiver.
From here, that's where it starts really, in my mind, kind of going off the rails. Is if you're going to take Luther Burden as a slot guy with your second pick, why come back and take Kyle Williams?
I think Kyle's a little bit more of an outside guy than some people are thinking. I think he's actually going to go way higher than that. Also, by the way, I think he could be a 2nd round pick. That I'm with you though. Like, you've invested in Jerry Jeudy, you've invested in Cedric Tillman. You've got David Njoku. If you get Luther Burden already, at what point are you not getting your 3rd round pick on the field, basically?
Right.
Because you're not going to be in that kind of spread it out, especially if we go back to a more Stefanski kind of led offense. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Again, starting there, and then we get to round 4 and we bring in the mighty Mike quarterback, and I'm
we're starting to spot a trend here.
Starting to daydream a little bit.
Yeah. And I'm glad that he starts with, okay, angry Browns fans, work with me here. Like, by the way, I know Doug very well. We spend lots of times together at the combine. We go to dinner together and all that. So I know Doug very well. His personality, I literally hear him saying these things. The thing I can say about Doug is he does the work. Like, that guy is busting film. Like, we're literally talking about random stuff at the comp, and I look over and he's just got D3 film on, and I'm like, who are you? And then he'll be like, oh, it's blah blah. I'm like, I'm not going to remember that guy's name, much less have film understanding of what the heck he does. So but yeah, if I'm drafting a quarterback, I'm not really at this point drafting a backup that I know is never going to start. Like, at the top of round 4, I'm not drafting a quarterback that has literally almost no chance of starting. Like, he literally had to put everything into the ball at the NFL Combine to get it down the field. Like, his whole entire body, like, was coming off the ground so he could get it down the field. I'm out.
Yeah. I'm not. Look, everybody puts together mocks, and this time of year, it's all about finding the plus side in every player. Right? What's the upside? What can we possibly get out of this? I look at it more realistically, like, okay, how does this guy fit on our 53-man roster?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And are we ever going to, like you said before, are we ever going to see the 6th receiver who's like the 9th option in our offense? Right? So when I use these picks, I'm thinking about, okay, where do they plug in? Not necessarily even this year, but in a year or 2 or 3. Yeah. So, if I'm going to use pick number 94 on Kyle Williams and his comp is Jamari Thrash, well, I already took Jamari Thrash last year.
I have Jamari Thrash.
He hasn't played much yet. Yeah, we haven't even seen what he can do yet.
Right. So I want to find a different guy. I want to find, a guy with some size, maybe, that sure. is my more possession oriented type of guy, or some guy with some real speed that can take the top off of defense, so something that just sets him apart from everybody else. Right. And for me, I don't like guys setting themselves apart from everybody else by being under 6 foot tall. I wanted to be, I want to be bigger than the other team. I'm just funny that way.
We've had enough 5'11" players on the Browns. Is that what you're saying, Jeff?
I've seen enough 5'11" guys. Yeah, in Cleveland uniforms.
Now, I'll be honest. I got to be, take consistent. I don't think size is a skill, but it is an attribute, right? And so a wide receiver who can catch the ball is really important. a wide receiver who can separate is really important. Then give me the bigger guy, right? Like that's kind of the order for it. I want you to be able to catch. I want you to be able to separate one way or another. And then if you're bigger, I want you, right? Like that's when I'm going to select you.
Yeah.
And I think so many times we get hung up on all of the different things that don't matter first. Speed, size, whatever.
Speed too,
either of those things. You can be really fast, but if you can't separate because you don't know how to freaking run a route, I don't want you either. Like run straight line, go join the Olympics, right?
Right.
Fine. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, it's okay to be bigger. It's so like I think over the last couple of years we finally have, again, as a Buckeye honk who I think the helmet's over there somewhere, who also owes them grad school money for the rest of my life. It's nice that they can finally draft Ohio State players again. And they're not like allergic to Buckeyes. They're also allergic to big and fast dudes. I like those two. Those are good guys too.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen Luther Burden comp to rookie year Kadarius Toney. All right, which is not a bad thing. Okay. But how long did that last? And how many guys like that have there been in the league, like since the Marino Dolphins, you can probably sneak a guy like that in find some place for him. Right. But I think bigger guys tend to be more successful in the league longer term.
Yeah. And if you have like the Travis Benjamin who can run past everybody, cool. Right. He wasn't very big, but he could literally run past everybody, and you got to put him in those right situations.
Yeah.
I think it's just, I think it's an interesting place to be for the Browns this year is, what does this year even matter? Right. Like even as you're looking at these draft picks, like obviously every year matters, but normally you're drafting for the future.
Right.
But I tend to think about today, like who's going to play today.
Needs. Right. Yeah. Those first couple picks, maybe, but beyond that, not likely.
Yeah. I mean, even last year, Zach Zinter, right? Like even, Michael Hall, neither one of those were filling big needs, right? They were helpful because of injuries and whatever, but like they were planning for the future. I think that's the thing that I will never do great at is going, hey, there's a big hole here. They're not going to do anything about that, right? Like they're going to get the best player that could play next year or start next year or start the year. Like I think this year's different, just to be honest. And I wanted to say this earlier with the quarterback. This year's been really interesting because normally when the Browns have, since Barry and Stefanski took over, when they've had a hole, they've filled it. Right. Immediately. Right. They signed Jack Conklin.
Or a trade or something. Yeah.
A trade. Right. John Johnson, Juan Thornhill. And this year they've kind of sat on their hands, which is why I think the Kirk Cousins trade, even if you all don't like it, I think the Kirk Cousins trade is already kind of wink, wink. If they don't draft a quarterback in the number 2, I think it's wink, wink already done because I've never seen them sit on their hands about something that's actually a need before.
I'm not necessarily opposed to Kirk Cousins. I just don't see the urgency to do it.
Yeah.
Because, for me, I'd rather learn something about a younger guy that I don't already know versus a guy that we pretty much know what we're going to get in Kirk Cousins. And there's going to be plenty of time later in the season after we're through our first 3 guys, like we always do in Cleveland, to pull in a veteran, right?
But we got to get our number 2 and number 3 guy for that right now.
Well, yeah, I'm
just draft 2 guys.
I'm in favor of drafting a couple.
We'll draft 2 guys and two rookies and Kenny Pickett going into the.
What I've said is I want to see us draft a high floor guy and a high ceiling guy.
Yeah.
Right. Now the high floor guy, maybe he plays right away. Maybe Tyler Shuck is that guy. I don't know. Maybe it's somebody else, but. And then, if you can find a higher ceiling guy that you can spend a couple of years developing too, then great. This is the year to roll the dice on some quarterbacks in my mind that may not pan out. We've got picks. I mean, we're not really expecting a lot from the quarterback position this year, even if we, by some miracle, end up getting, Jaden Daniels version 2
sure,
with the second pick. Right. I just don't think our expectations there this year. It's been tempered so much. Right. So why not roll the dice? Let's take a look at some of these guys. And the worst case scenario is, we come out of this year with a really great, solid backup for next year.
Yeah, and I think the only the only issue is they don't really have that 5th round pick, so they're going to need to get up. Like when we talk about the Quinn Ewers, the Will Howards, some of those players, without having that 5th round pick, that's Kyle McCord is one that I've heard a lot of good things about, which is interesting again as a Buckeye. But
yeah,
he might be that 4th round pick. Will Howard might be a 5th round pick. I think that's what you're talking about. Like, is Jalen Milroe the 2nd round pick? Even the 3rd round pick or whatever, move around. And then is there that other guy in that 4th, 5th round that, or specifically the 5th round, that can kind of come in and just, what Will Howard's going to be kind of thing, or what Kyle McCord's going to be kind of thing.
Yeah.
If they become Kirk Cousins, cool.
And maybe they challenge Kenny Pickett for the starting job in camp, right?
You mean he can't hold on to it? Sorry, I had to make some small.
Drop his, right.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the first 5 picks are in this draft are guys that you're looking for fairly immediate contributions from, and then the second 5 picks are guys that maybe they develop, in a year or two.
Yeah.
So if we're going to take a quarterback, it's probably got to be with one of those first 5 picks. If we're going to take a second quarterback, it probably is going to have to be with the last of those 5 picks, unless we really want to reach on a guy, I'm certainly
that's
certainly not going to be Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, that's assuming there are trade ups and trade downs and all this kind of stuff, which is very possible too.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what 2 or 3 of those 6th rounders are worth if you try to move up into the 4th or 5th round again.
Yeah, and I think those are going to be, the 6th is going to be really interesting, and thankfully it's it starts Saturday at noon instead of 4:00 or whatever. I think it's going to probably be telling for us of what, I know it sounds weird to say 6th round picks could be telling, but I think if you see the Browns moving up 5th round, whatever, moving around with those picks, then I think that's saying they think they can do something this year. I think more likely or interestingly will be, do they trade us 1 or 2 of those 6th round picks for 5th round picks next year? That might be a sign that they see this. And I wrote an article that I really believe, from what I've been told, in a lot of ways, this is year 1 for Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. And that kind of trade of 6th for 5ths next year will kind of be a good sign that we're in year 1 and they're not winning would be nice kind of thing. So it's weird to say 6th round picks will be interesting, but I think what they do with them will really be telling.
And I think there's some interesting guys in the later part of this draft that could help this team a few years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Goes back to how many rookies they're going to carry this year. But I mean, we know they have a lot of spots still open on the roster. So
I just want to wrap up the backside of Doug's draft, his mock. So with those last 5, and again, I'm not judging Doug or anything. Okay,
all good.
For me, it's just about what will these guys do in 2 or 3 years. Okay, so the cornerback at 179 as a slot guy is basically Cam Mitchell. So I'm going to make the same argument that I made about Jamari Thrash. Right.
You could also say that with Miles Harden last year.
Right. Yeah, why did we take him last year?
That'd be the 3rd. We'll get the 3rd one of them.
We keep throwing guys at the slot position, right? Instead of just finding a slot guy. I mean, I wanted Mikey Sainristil last year. Okay, so Ty Robinson, the D lineman. I've seen that movie. Quentin Jefferson last year. It's nice to have a 3 technique who can penetrate, but he also needs to be able to tackle along the way.
And not get pushed out of his out of every run fit he's supposed to have.
Right. So I'm out on Ty Robinson. Crawford, another D-back slot guy / safety, bad tackler, 5'10". I think he probably, if you got him as a UDFA. I'm going to say the same thing about the linebacker, the last pick. What is Asante?
Yeah.
I mean, those guys are probably going to be UDFAs, and they probably aren't as good as the UDFAs that we've had the last couple of years here that have made the team. For me, I don't know why you use a draft pick on guys like that. And then the last guy to talk about is the tight end, because this is a place that is really near and dear to my heart. Jared, I've been screaming for a tight end for what feels like decades now. So I just wanted to throw this out there that, since David Njoku was drafted in 2017, the Browns have taken 3 times as many kickers in the draft as tight ends.
That's an impressive stat.
That's a hell of a stat.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Harrison Bryant in 2020. And Oronde Gadsden II is, to me, an awful lot like Harrison Bryant. I mean, he's a pass-catching, undersized tight end that is he a wide receiver? Is he a tight end? We're not sure which, right? Yeah. For me, if you're drafting him as a wide receiver, there are better big guys. If you're drafting him as a tight end, if we wait that long to take a tight end in this draft and we come away with Oronde Gadsden II, I might just burn down Municipal Stadium, because we have to have a number 2 that can really play in line and can do more than just that.
But Jeff, at least they will have taken a damn tight end finally.
Well, I guess I got to give them credit for that, right?
It's been a long time.
You just called it Municipal Stadium, which I appreciate so greatly.
Right. Well, that's why I could say I was going to burn it down, because they can't say I could threaten arson on that.
On a side note, I don't know if Doug realized it when he was doing this, but he proved at some level he knows Andrew Berry's brain. Cornerbacks and guys that are either juniors or seconds are like right. Andrew Berry 101, right? Like
that's
absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. I gotta give him credit for that.
A junior, a third, whatever it is. So he loves those guys. I do think the thing to always remember in the 6th and 7th round, probably only there, is really, and I could be wrong, you're really looking at one of 2 things generally at the NFL level. You're looking at somebody who has some kind of boom potential. You can't really be a bust at 6th round pick. Like you're going to make the roster most likely, maybe. You're looking for that boom upside, or, and this is what I've been told, most GMs say, my 6th and 7th round pick, I must see what they can do. I must have a role for them on special teams. Then whatever else is benefit or bonus. And so I don't think Gatson has a significant role on special teams, but the other guys, I think they might see it might be about that. Now, obviously I'm not going to pretend like that's what Doug was thinking, but it's so hard because we think offense, defense. I want the offense to be better. I want the defense to be better. And you should be able to figure out the special teams crap. Like, but I do know that they'll often, especially in the 6th and 7th round, first decide, are they athletic enough with upside, or do they have a specific, are they a gunner? Are they a this? Are they a that? Are they the protector? And that's kind of what they're looking at, interestingly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, no offense, Doug. If you post any kind of a mock draft on X, you're going to get shredded no matter what. So, I thought the first part of it was, I'd love to have those guys, So, anyway,
I put one out a while back via Rod, and I took a kicker and got ripped for that. So.
I put it out, and people are like, yeah, tell Jeff not to quit his day job and all this, and people did not like it. So,
I will tell you, I would like it, except that I don't think the Hopkins contract allows him to be cut, so it doesn't matter, which is quite annoying, but such is life.
Well, I hope he's been, getting his head straight this offseason. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
So
they haven't hired me yet to do that. I don't understand why. I wouldn't accept the job, but the Browns have not offered me their mental health position yet. I also would not accept the job, and my wife would not allow us to move up there. So
I wish I could say they listen to this podcast, Jared, but from some of the decisions that are made, it's pretty apparent that they don't. So, anyways,
I'll tell you this real quickly, and this is I sound such like a. Anyways, they listen to more than you would think. And according to pretty much everyone in the league, they're the most paranoid organization. And that was including the Bill Belichick run New England Patriots. So
Wow.
it is the one thing that has carried over since they've returned in 99. I've been covering the team 16 years now, 15 years now, whatever it is. But it is the one thing that has carried over since 1999. New ownership, new everything, basically. It is still the most paranoid organization. It is why one of the many reasons Josh McDaniels did not get the job, because that dude wanted to fire every single person basically that worked for the organization. Also, Josh McDaniels would have made a lot of us insiders because, a lot of us know his family and know him. And so I missed out on being a really good insider. But yeah, it's a very paranoid organization. I would not be shocked if this podcast got listened to at least twice this season by somebody within the organization, and I would not be shocked by that.
Wow.
Well,
maybe
Rod and I
it would be this episode.
Rod and I have half jokingly, said that, gee, they must have listened to the podcast this week a couple of times. So,
You just never know.
You just never know.
right?
So, a couple things left here, guys, and we're going to wrap things up. So we get a couple questions from some people on X. So Matt Lubbock, you follow him at Matthew Lubbock, asks, assuming the Browns keep the number 2 pick, who do you think the Browns will select, and who would you select at number 2?
I'm pretty confident they're taking Travis Hunter. I was pretty confident of that about 2.5 weeks ago. And I'm pretty sure that's not going to change. Honestly, I actually change my mind like every day, to be honest. Like what I would do, I literally change my, because I think Shedeur Sanders is a really good quarterback. He's hyper accurate. He processes the field really well. He's really smart, all that stuff. I also think he's good, not great. So like I can talk myself in and out of him. Abdul Carter, there's some injury-ish concerns. But Travis Hunter is the best prospect in this draft. It's kind of at some level a wide receiver cornerback version of Myles Garrett. And like he's not going to be bad. He's probably going to be really good. So I literally talk about all 3 of those, which then makes me go, maybe they should trade down.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
Jeff,
I
what do you
am
think?
all in on trading down. I want
Yeah.
multiple picks in the 20 to 50 range.
Yeah.
That's what this team needs.
Yeah, I say the same thing, and it definitely feels like Travis Hunter's the pick right now. But I'm the same way. If they take Abdul Carter, if they feel like Shedeur Sanders is their guy, it's not going to bother me if they take him. Not at all. But if they can trade down and stay in the top, 5 to 10, especially if they can pick up a first rounder for next year or something, I'd be all over that. I don't know what kind of trade partners are going to get. It just depends on the package and that. So hopefully we answered that for you, Matt. We didn't really tell you what's going to happen or what we think because we all have different ideas. But anyways, Jeremy, let's see. Jeremy gave me like 5 questions. Let's see.
Oh, is that 14 Bonham?
14 Bonham, yeah.
Bonham.
How far down do the Browns need to trade back to get Mason Graham? I guess he's asking how low could they trade down and still get Mason Graham because he likes Mason Graham.
He loves Mason Graham.
Yeah.
The problem is who they would be trading down with would change that. The New England Patriots are most likely taking Hunter, Carter, or Graham. From what they could go offensive tackle, but I've been told Mike Vrabel wants kind of that impact player. So, but if New England's moving up, then they could probably get him at 4. I could be wrong about that because they do need an offensive tackle, and the Missouri kid could fit there. I just don't see him getting past Jacksonville. Las Vegas keeps being talked about Genty. So I think they have to stay in the top 5, to be honest, to get Mason Graham. So it'd really be a New England, Jacksonville moving up kind of deal, which I think Mason Graham's going to be a really, really, really good defensive tackle. Pair him with Michael Hall. I think that's a good one.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. He's asking who's possible starting caliber free safety. Jeremy, there's a bunch of them in this draft. Right, guys?
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah, you can probably cross Xavier Watts off just because of age. There's an age concern there, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. It's about the only one. Everything else, you're like, there should be some interesting guys there. Jeff, I will tell you, my dream, like your tight end dream, has been a freaking free safety. I have been banging the table.
We've been struggling.
The Buda Baker, Earl Thomas,
you
name it. I have been begging for a free safety. And every time, John Johnson, Juan Thornhill, man, I've been so excited. We finally, no, we don't. So
at least we've tried to get those, Jared. I mean,
that's true. Wait, you don't consider Jordan Akins a try?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So who are some of your who are a couple of your top guys in this draft who you'd like to see Browns take at free safety, Jared?
I like Emawari. He's really athletic. People think of him as a strong safety. I think he actually can play free safety really, really well. I like Winston Jr. I like Bowman. There's a few. Honestly, I'm not as in love with this class as some people are for the free safety position. So at that point, I'm like, can I get that athletic guy, Emawari? I don't know where he goes because he's one of those players where you can see a team going, he's really athletic, we're going to take him really high. Or we don't know how we want to play him, and does his athleticism kind of show on the field, and he might fall to 33. And again, then we get into the offensive tackle quarterback conversation.
Yeah, I said that last week. I can envision it, assuming we pick at 2 and stay at 33, and all that's at 33. Hopefully, we might be sitting there and have, our choice between a great running back, maybe a tackle, maybe safety, maybe a quarterback, which would be great if they have a choice like that. So.
I'm also hopeful that they can use their friendship with Howie Roseman. Either way, I want them having a second first-round pick. I like the idea of that 5th-round option, and I'll give up a 6th round or whatever the crap I have to give up to move up one spot. But even like everybody talks about it for quarterbacks, but if you trust your evaluations, having that 5th-round option at 32 or even above that really just gives you some flexibility and some control in negotiations, especially if they're good. Then you can start negotiating after year 3 with that kind of leverage point, which I think is really good. So hopefully they're not picking at 33.
Especially how expensive safeties get, and left tackles, and anybody else who we would consider with that pick. It would make an awful lot of sense to move up.
I mean, it's so hard right now because every position is really expensive except for guard and linebacker and maybe tight end a little bit. But if you're good, you're going to get really highly paid. So I think it's, move up.
So Jared, I'm gonna ask you this, and then we'll do our closing thoughts on that. What would your ideal draft be for the Browns? And we'll just do first 4 picks.
Travis. Well, honestly, I wouldn't select Cam Ward number 2. So it's Travis Hunter. It's Jalen Milroe. It's Quinshawn Junkins, most likely that first third round pick. And then this sounds terrible to say it so simply, but whichever tight end's available, not just because Jeff's on the board here. But there's a lot of tight ends that I like a lot, Fannin and Ferguson and Taylor. And I mean, there's just a lot of tight ends. And to be honest, I think, especially because then I'm also trading for Kirk Cousins. I'm trading a 2026 conditional 5th round pick that could become a 3rd if they make the playoffs and he starts 70%, right? So I could care less. If they make the playoffs and he starts 70%, I'll give up a 3rd round pick. I don't care. So I have now given a developmental quarterback that can learn from Kirk Cousins, a stud wide receiver at the level could be in 2 or 3 years of Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and then a tight end and a running back. We'll figure the rest out. Like, you can't fill all the holes. I don't love the offensive tackle class, even though they need an offensive tackle. So that's kind of the direction I would go.
Man, yeah, they need help on offense, and that would be cool. Yeah.
The Warren Sharp put out a thing about how much help they've given to the quarterback, and they're like they're tied with the Saints for least amount of draft capital spent on wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs since, I don't know, I think it was 5 years, 10 years, something like that. You're like, well, yeah, partially because they gave a lot to Watson, to get Watson, but in general, they have not drafted stud players at those 3 skill positions.
I can't believe it. All right, let's get some closing thoughts, and Jared, maybe shout out if there's anything you're working on right now. Everybody can obviously follow you, find your stuff at Jared K. Mueller on X.
Final thoughts. Enjoy the draft, y'all. I know that sounds weird to say, but I feel like, unfortunately for Browns fans, mostly starting with the Deshaun Watson trade, but the NFL draft used to be Browns fans' Super Bowl, and I don't think it should be their Super Bowl. It is my favorite sports holiday, but enjoy it, right? Like, sports are supposed to be fun, right? Cleveland Cavaliers are good. Enjoy them being good in the playoffs. Hopefully they win a title, but just enjoy it, please. So enjoy the draft. Like, have fun with this. Like, enjoy players developing, enjoy getting to know them as players, enjoy watching the nuances. And I'll say this, first year doesn't mean anything, right? I think Bo Nix will be on his second team by year 4 or 5. And everybody right now thinks he's a stud starting quarterback, right? And so the opposite is true too. So don't just because of 1 year, like, enjoy it. Sports are supposed to be fun, y'all. Dogs by nature. The one thing I'll encourage, or 2 things, they go together, but one, we have a daily, and I got to do it before I go to bed tonight. We have a daily trivia game that every night I put in a player, of the 1,600 Browns players in history. Every night I put in a player and 5 hints, and you have 5 hints to guess that one player. So that is always on the front page, top right, in our 3rd spot. So check that out. Tell us how you did in the comment section. Join the DBN community. We've got some people that have been around for a while who they make our morning daily chow their home every morning. Come join the family. Come join the fun.
All right.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Jeff, closing thoughts tonight.
I will tell you, Jared, that I think I've played that little game 3 times, and I got the guy on the second guess twice.
Dang.
Yeah.
So I got to make it harder is what I hear.
You got to make them harder. Yeah. So, so I'm just going to give you my first 5 in the draft, and I might tweak this for next week's show before we get to the draft. But it's looking like it's going to be Travis Hunter. Again, I'm all in on a trade down, but this is assuming no trades. Travis Hunter, I've come around to sort of accept that, he's the favorite. Josh Connerly at 33, Andrew Makuba at 67, Tyler Shuck at 94, and then at 104, I'm going to take whichever of the 2 tight ends are available, either Ferguson or Evans, because if we don't take a tight end by then, as far as I'm concerned, we might as well not waste our time taking one later. And we need to take one. We need to take one this year.
Take one. Take a tight end, Browns.
Yeah.
If you guys are listening, if you hear this show, draft a tight end this year.
I told you so.
All right. This has been the Browns Blitz. We thank you for listening and watching, and we will catch you next time.